Here with us is the Hang Lung Properties, which is a leading Hong Kong company with an extensive real estate portfolio in Hong Kong. Hang Lung continual effort in fostering sustainable developments have gained its prominent recognitions in both local and international, such as including a member of Hang Seng Corporate Sustainability Index and the gold level of the leadership in energies and environment design core and shell significations. Now please welcome Ms. Bella Peck Lim Chhoa, Vice Chair of Committee and Director of Leasing and Management of Hang Lung Property on the stage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be here to speaking about a subject which I have passion for, sustainability. Before I go into the details of today's presentation, can I just tell you two stories? Actually, it all happened yesterday and today. I was doing my presentation, and all of a sudden, my mind just comes up and said, why me? Why Hang Lung? And we received this invitation from the Stock Exchange of Thailand. And why a Hong Kong company? So I spoke to Sarah Fong, and Sarah Fong told me, actually, you know why they know Hang Lung? It's because they read it from an investors' relations magazine. 3 stories at that time were picked to talk about ESG. One is a blue chip listed company in Hong Kong doing shipping business. The second one is a renowned airlines from Singapore. So I don't have to mention which airline is that. The third one is actually Hang Lung. We got picked. And the reason why is actually in that article, we share all the practical tips and examples of how we do sustainability being a listed company. I'll explain about our company a little bit later, but I'm thrilled to be here because I've walked through that journey for like 5 years now, and here I am in a foreign country talking in this auditorium, high ceilings, elite qualified building, like what we have in our own business as well, about sustainability. A very new subject matter that Omar rightly points out. It's a global development. It's a global development that the trend is quite unpredictable. Why I'm saying that? I just have to tell you a little bit about my background. I'm actually a lawyer. And when I first joined my company, Hang Lung, I was the general counsel and the company secretary of my company. And I got this call from a headhunter and say, Bella, do you want to do something different in your life? And I said, why not? And he said, perhaps you would like to do, human resources function as well? And I pondered a bit and I said, yeah, I've been in my comfort zone for quite some time. And it's just a good thing that you do something different. So perhaps at that time I was still a little bit young, and I said, no worries. I stepped out of my comfort zone, and then I joined Hang Lung. Then I spent 6 years doing human resources function together with my general counsel hat. Corporate governance in Hong Kong, I have to say, perhaps the standard is set a little bit higher. I always challenge myself. Is our stock exchange doing, could we do better? It's always my question. As to why I'm asking that, is because a lot of things is about compliance. It's about ticking the checklist, ticking the box, and are we doing our job into advocating, take for example, what we're talking about today, sustainability. Luckily, for us, we do have, board members in support of this proposition, and we could do it better. There's a research in Hong Kong, and I trust it's an organization called CSR Asia. And it monitors the performance of sustainability of index of all these listed companies in Hong Kong. They talked to 2,000 companies. They asked the question, is sustainability a strategic necessity? And the answer of which they got back is actually only 60 companies here said ESG is a strategic necessity out of the 2,000 companies. Let's talk about Hong Kong as a stock exchange market. Hang Lung is a blue chip listed company, and there are 50 companies which is in the blue chip basket. We are one of them. So what we are saying in this study is actually only blue chip listed companies in Hong Kong perhaps think that sustainability is a strategic necessity. I'm lucky to be with this company, Hang Lung, and Hang Lung actually is a Chinese name, and it's a very conventional company. So when you benchmark a conventional company in the sustainability sphere, you have a different formula to apply. Unlike Tesla, which Omar talks about in his presentation, or any of the e-commerce, digital blooming business we're talking about. Will conventional business like real estate business like Hang Lung wither at the end of the day? We talk about e-commerce at all times. These are the challenges we face. I trust that sustainability is about the existence of a company. If not, we are talking about an extinction of a company, which we don't want to see here, right? And then, there's a second story I want to tell you about. Is actually, I found it very admirable for Dr. Setriko, if I pronounce that right, to invite a Hong Kong company to come here. I talked to him about why bringing people from London and in Hong Kong just to here to do this seminar here. We don't see that in Hong Kong. In the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, we started the consultation paper in 2012. As a blue chip listed company, if we have a seminar like this, I think I must get the invitation. And I don't. So I just want to say that, audience here today, I find your stock exchange is doing a very admirable thing to push the country to talk about the trend of sustainability. Because in a lot of countries, actually, we don't have that concept yet. But in Hong Kong, we do have one thing. We do have compliance. And again, I talked to Damien, Omar's colleague here, about how investors and how funds look at sustainability when they invest in Hong Kong. The answer is actually investors in Hong Kong and even in Singapore, am I correct? Perhaps they don't look into the ESG performance of a company when they make the investment decision. In Hong Kong, I can tell you why. I trust one of the reasons is actually we don't have pension fund system in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, we do have mandatory provident fund, but actually the government is not doing a pension scheme for the people. So when they make all these decisions, they don't have to explain to the public about why they make those decisions. But a lot of companies like us, because we do have board members thinking that sustainability is very important in our strategic decisions, in the environmental aspect, in the social aspect, and even how we treat our people, because we want to be best in class. There's a price to being a blue chip listed company. People talk about you. And in Hang Lung, because it's a family-owned business, they want their business to last. And hence, we honor corporate governance. And our chairman, Ronnie, who is a billionaire in Hong Kong, but run a very frugal habit, always said that, corporate governance enshrined in our organization, because I trust there's only one belief in his mind. He wants to leave the business to the next generations to come. Usually, in a presentation session, I would like my audience not to use the phone. But today, I've got 1.5 hours, I was told. And hence, we want to be more interactive. After a few slides, my colleague Jonathan here will help us to do a poll to understand the audience here as to how you think sustainability is, the importance as such, and what it means for your company. So perhaps you should get your phone ready, and we have to log on the website to do the poll in the next few minutes. And I hope that you could participate in this session so that this will be more engaging. And if you have any questions in the interim, don't hesitate to ask me. I haven't finished my story about my own personal career development. That's a strange title, right? I'm a lawyer. I should be the general counsel, and if not the director of human resources. So what happens here? About a month ago, actually about half a year ago, I talked to my management. I said, I've been in this role for 6 years now. I want to step out of my comfort zone and do something different. And they say, wow, Bella, what do you want to do? And in this very difficult situation and environment, challenging as it is, I said, I want to do business. Hang Long, with a Chinese name, run by Chinese management here, give me that chance. And they say, why not? You have been in the company for so many years. So we know that whatever you want to do, we just have to groom people. Not just, grooming people from front lines, from the managerial level, but, up to a certain level when you're in charge of, already 2 functions. And hence, in July, I step out of this comfort zone again, and I do leasing and management, in charge of the Hong Kong portfolio. Now, am I in a dilemma? Because I'm in charge of numbers. Remember all these short-term sustainability, it's really using words like sacrifice, if not reconcile, short-term gain, long-term intangible profit. I'm facing this dilemma now. I say not. Because I trust that I've known my organization for 6 years now. I started as, the chairman of the Sustainability Steering Committee. Now I step down because it's such a joy, actually, for Ronnie's son, who is the only family member in the organization, apart from Ronnie himself being a chairman, because, he wants to make this business sustainable to pass it to the next generation to come as well, right? So he's already 60-ish. There must be a successor. He is a very busy person. He's called Adriel. But one thing I'm glad to tell to the stakeholders within my company and outside the company is that he is a big fan of sustainability. And in his life, he put it in practice. And he thinks that, perhaps that he is the stewardship, holding on to the fortune of the company. And he wants to pass it to his son as well. And he's a strong believer of sustainability. So I stepped into the vice chairman, and he said, because you have been the face to sustainability for such a long time, can you just do it for the next few years so that's a smooth transition? I trust that's a very good arrangement. All companies are different. You have to think of your starting point as to what your company is, your company's business model, how sustainability fits you, what sustainability means to your company. Don't go into the website to look for the definition of sustainability. I can never memorize the definition. Never ever in my single presentation, in any talks and speaking forum, because it sounds boring. It's just like, wow, the social pillars, the economic pillars, the governance pillars, using, present resources for the future use and taking that into account. Very long definition. No one can remember. When you do sustainability in your organization, you have to understand you are talking to everybody in your organization. So please use simple language to tell them what exactly it is by using directives, by using targets. You define it, and a group of people define it, and put that into practice. It has been a few years along this path. I'm not here to boast about how our sustainability performance of how good Hang Lung is. That's not my target for today. My target here is to learn and share. I'm not saying that Hang Lung is doing the best out of the real estate business. We are best in class, but are we the number one yet? I don't think so. So I'm here to share a journey which I've experienced with practical examples, with what I face in my heated arguments with my colleagues, and how to convince them that this is part of your key performance indicators. And hence in the year-end performance appraisal, we will be looking into that as well. That's what I'm going to tell you. And you can see this little cute girl, with short hair. Actually, she's in our uniform. This figure we created. Her name is called Emily. We do not intentionally want to cartoonize what this sustainability concept is. But as I told you, if you are talking to the frontliners and you said, you have to discharge your KPI in sustainability, she will be tongue-tied and drop her jaw and said, what are you talking about? We want to create this to show one thing. A smiley face. In a conventional real estate business, we talk about customer service. So we want to create a lively, energetic, figure, very disciplined, and enjoy her work. And she even has a mole in the eye, down there in the corner, just to, bring some impression to this character. Some background about the Hong Kong market, as I told you. Actually, the organization I've been talking about has been very disciplined. 2,060 listed companies. Only 60 of them said it's a strategic necessity for sustainability. Hong Kong is a financial center, 30 trillion market capitalization. And then we are one of the 50 Hang Seng Index constituents. That's a very important sentence. 25 of them are mainland Chinese companies. And in Hong Kong, still a financial center, we are still dominated by the banking and real estate sector. I've been asking myself whether this 25 mainland Chinese companies, what they have been doing on sustainability. And actually, I trust that not much have materialized, but they will catch up with the trend. Because their compliance are telling them that you have to do better in this sphere to make your branding known to the public, that Chinese could be the next financial market to come, following Hong Kong, like in the Shanghai index. So they're catching up. And you can see this trend because I said we are a conventional real estate business, and actually we do business only in two places. One is in Hong Kong. The other is in PRC. We run mega-sized malls in PRC, really mega-sized malls like those in Thailand. And we built to last. We rent those places out. We manage them. We don't sell those premises for short-term profit. And we can see all these controls, environmental controls, fire services regulations, all the regulations that are issued day in, day out, just to ensure that, people will have this mindset to protect the environment. Of course, some of, the situations they want to punish you for, fine. But you can see that China, as a world power, actually, they will honor the Paris Agreement. I trust that they want to build a position that they want to fight corruption. And hence, with all these developments here, you can see that China is really catching up. As to whether investors will think that all these are true, are real, or just ticking the box, we don't know yet. But I trust that, China now thinks that it's time for a change. They built their business fast, very strong GDP growth, so they are now at a stage of maturing. Every country experienced the same thing. So they want to do it right. Okay. This is my boss. And billionaire in Hong Kong, never sleeps, always drinking coffee. His name is Ronnie Chan. And we are in the business for 50 plus years now, still existing. And I think he's got a vision. His vision is to be the best developer in China in 10 years' time. Because as I said, our business model is to build to last. We don't go for short-term profits. Like the Stock Exchange of Thailand, all our buildings in China are LEED qualified. They are gold, they achieved the gold qualification. That history started back 1990. And from 2012 onwards, each of our buildings are gold certification. We do have a gold certification. In each of the organization, we need to have a DNA. And at that time, I trust that Ronnie, when I first joined the company, is thinking like China. I'll be very brave into making that statement. In the history of the company, actually we experienced financial crisis. We have managed to make a very bold investment decision at that time. And we invest a lot of money in Shanghai back in 1990s. I trust that everybody in this audience crowd should be old enough to realize that back in 1990s, actually, China is just picking up. And what we do is we earn our bread and butter in Hong Kong. We have our dime spent in China into holding those two mega-sized malls in China. And this model works. 20 years later, each of those malls are churning money to the extent that the profit margin is 80 plus. And I trust that, in 2012, he started to think different. That bold decision has been made. So I have a model, I have a business model, and China is growing. So I should duplicate this model into second and third tier cities as well. And he started from Jinan, Shenyang. I don't know whether the audience have heard about these countries. It's either these cities, and it's the second and third tier cities, but each of them has a very strong GDP growth because of the population size in China. And one thing you have to think of, if you want to build your business in second and third tier cities, it will be very tough. Being in the human resources department before, I could tell you people is the one big challenge that any organization face. In the second and third tier cities, actually, even if we speak Mandarin, it will be different accent, like speaking English. And sometimes you think that you're fluent, having a Chinese face, speaking Mandarin, they don't understand what you're talking about. And even for the culture in Shanghai and in Shenyang, they're so different. In Shenyang, I was told by my colleagues, if you have any disagreement, punch. I thought this was joking, but it's not. Because in the few years I've been in the human resources department, I do find a lot of punching cases among my colleagues. And in Shanghai, it's different. In Shanghai, perhaps in Shanghai, you always, walk on the street and people talk to each other in such a loud voice. You thought they are going to fight any minute. But they don't. They fight with words. That's what Shanghainese do. I don't know about this until I joined the company. And I realized that my colleagues in the 8 different cities are so different that they are from 8 different countries. So I trust that Ronnie thinks alike as well. Ronnie thought, in order to build up your business in these foreign lands, you have to have systems in place. Systems, guidelines, protocols, monitoring systems, head office functions to tell you the directives, delegate to those people in the city to discharge their duties, but then monitoring them from time to time with an independent third party so that if anything goes terribly wrong, you know it forthwith. And you made it loud. Otherwise, without this element of telling the people what your corporate values are, your company is going down. In this forum, I'm going to share a few cases on integrity as well, because I trust that it's good to be here. It's a sharing session, and we talk about the cases that we face when we build this business and run the business in the 2nd and 3rd tier cities. We do face challenges. But what I share with you, this story on integrity, is actually happening in Shanghai. So perhaps this is something that we could learn. As said, if you want to build an identity and DNA within your own organization, it's like running an army. You need to have a motto. So we choose this motto, we do it right, back in 2012. So in 2012, Ronnie made some good decisions. We have a motto, we have a new management team, and the new management team actually, we come from different industry, and we know that we have to discharge our functions as an executive. As I said, in our company, it's not a family business that we're having uncles, aunts and cousins of the Chan's family, running the business. We don't do it like that. I said my boss is Ronnie Chan. He's the chairman. But he's always, having a seat in Asia Society, a cultural organization in Hong Kong, talking about issues between the States and China. Most of the time, the business is run by a CEO. And my boss, actually, the CEO, is the ex-CEO of Cathay Pacific. Hence, the values are so different from the traditional, Chinese company background companies. In the last 6 years, we always mention this motto: we do it right. How you define right and wrong is very subjective. Decisions may not bring the commercial value to your organization that you intended for, but you have to do it within a framework. Do it within the right principles. Do it with integrity and honesty, with transparency, teamwork. That's what we have been thinking of, when we think of this motto. In Hong Kong, we've got 28 major properties. And we've got 8 mega-sized complexes in China, as I told you. And, sprawling into different, countries, into different cities here. The thing I want to tell you is that we have to run our business, even from a sustainability aspect, in 2 categories. For those buildings in China, as I told you, they are all LEED certified. They have got this gold certification. In Hong Kong, I've told you that our business has a history of 50 years. So those buildings need to be maintained. And we do have a scheme to ensure that, we could help save energy from all these old buildings and to ensure that these buildings are up and coming, up and running with the proper facilities, with the proper enhancement program. So we do have a 10-year enhancement program fixed for all these buildings in Hong Kong. Actually, still, this is the Standard Chartered Bank building, on the left-hand corner is the office building. We bought it. Now it's BEAM Platinum qualified. We do commercial complexes because we don't sell the buildings. We do part of the residential buildings, but we do have a portfolio for service apartment as well. What I want to tell you is for our office buildings in Hong Kong and the commercial complexes in Hong Kong is only 7 million square feet. The whole portfolio in China is 28 million square feet. But half of the business actually comes from Hong Kong. So the revenue share is like 50% in Hong Kong and 50% in China. And I'm responsible for the 50% in Hong Kong. Those are some figures just to make you understand the extent of business that we've been involved in Hong Kong. I trust that Ronnie perhaps was named by the Forbes as the 6th, wealthiest person in Hong Kong as well. Number of employees, when I first joined the company, is 2,000. Now it's 4,720. They come from different backgrounds. And the total floor, total operating gross floor area is about 29 million, 2.9 million square meters. You can see that the young one is Ronnie's son. Next to him is the CEO, ex-CEO of Cathay Pacific. The very short one, but the very smart one is Ronnie Chen. And then next to him is the financial controller. So they were in the annual results announcement. We've only got 4 executive directors out of the 11, and one of the board is 10 board members in our 2 listed companies. Over half of which they are independent executive directors. So that's how we run our business. Right, so without further ado, could I have your cooperation and do a little poll for me to let me better understand the audience of today? So Jonathan, first of all, could you go on this website, menti.com, if you have your phone with you. And then plug in the code 233158. I was told that this crowd is 230, so perhaps at least we got 100. Right, so when we're waiting here, I just want to introduce Jonathan here as well. Actually has been doing all the work, including today's presentation and this poll, very meaningful poll. And he has been, we've been working for like 3 or 4 years now? 2? Oh, 2.5 he counts. And we've been doing sustainability together, and he's very passionate about his job. I trust that, that tells actually younger generations, they do believe in this, value of sustainability, like Adriel does. Right. I think we can do the, yeah. Wow, thank you. Right. Yeah. First question. Managing sustainability is important to our business. So press.
Yeah, you can choose your answer.
It's about what your company thinks, not what you think here, right? I just want to make sure that we got this right. Okay, the numbers are together, I guess. Right. 102. Great. It's better than the Hong Kong companies. Definitely. Right. So that sounds great. It's certainly a very important element when you do your business and managing your business. So we go to the second question. Our company is integrating, the keyword is integrating, sustainability into decision making. So hands on your heart. When your company makes decision, are you aware that they have integrated those business decision, sustainability into making business decision? Okay, that's an honest answer. Very honest answer, partially integrated. I actually read the list of participants in today's sharing session, and I know that some of the audience here are from the top 10 Thai companies that Omar has shown on his last presentation. So perhaps that's a correct reflection of our audience here today. So we go to the third question. My company is okay. Our colleagues, okay, that's the difficult one. Our colleagues are well aware of sustainability. Why the laugh? Are you sure it's but mostly top management? No, I'm the only one struggling. Who put that column in there? Wow, so we've got 18 participants say that they are struggling, and I think it's very, I'm thrilled because you're attending this forum. So it's very exciting because you have stepped out of your comfort zone. Right. Okay, some, but mostly top management. Yes, that's what I'm facing in my organization as well. Okay, the next question. Okay, wow. My company is publicly disclosing our sustainability performance. Ponder. You have to think about this. No, why disclosing? I'm wondrous, for those who press this button of no with a why disclosing, can we discuss in private as to why you think that way, and we can have some sharing session as well, because I want to know why you think why. Right. Wow, eight, that's 10%, about 10%. Gosh. Right, so yeah, good. Yes, and beyond the requirement, and yes, fulfilling. It's quite even for the two columns here. Yes, and beyond the requirement. Yes, fulfilling the stock exchange requirement. All right, starting to disclose some key parameters. Good, right. Okay, go to the next question. Is that another one? The top 3 sustainability aspects that my company concerns most. Is there choices of words to choose from? All right, so just press some words there. Could be economic, could be social, could be CSR, could be environment, people, money, yeah.
Profit, any keywords that you think is important to your
Just what comes up to your mind. Pollution, corporate governance, CSR, grievance, anti-corruption, environment, social, environment, mostly it's about environment. Okay. What is 233158? There. Right. So mostly it's about environment, and then I'm not going to decipher that code about the numbers that you have plugged in. And it's about CSR, it's about governance, it's about social aspect. Okay, good. Right. Supply chain, carbon footprint, child abuse, regulatory, earning growth, long-term profit. Good. Right. That's very helpful, I have to say. Are those all the questions I have? Yeah. We have, all right. So I want to tell you about this. I think, as I said, you are doing better than the Hong Kong people, Hong Kong companies, I have to say, about what you think about sustainability when making management decisions. We do have some buzzwords about what you think about sustainability. I don't know whether it's the hot weather in Thailand that makes you think that environment is the most important. And you have got the corporate governance as well. Anti-corruption is a big thing, like our organization, is a big topic for discussion. And the poll here, apart from engaging the audience here, is actually to understand about your practices, about what you think about sustainability, about disclosure, about why we need to disclose those figures, and whether it's important, and if it's important, why it is important. So, thank you for your participation. Thank you, Jonathan, for that. And
all these results, we can share this result with all of you actually. If you're interested in all those figures and findings, just feel free to drop an email
to us, Seraphon, and to ask for the results. So with the trend in mind, I want to talk about history. These are the news that we went on the website, and one thing we find in common is actually when you don't do sustainability right, things may come up one day, and that is going to tarnish your company's reputation. They do happen. I was doing my research yesterday as to what I need to tell the audience here, and I saw two news in Japan, both of which involves camera flashing and whirling, and with this very Japanese deep bow. Why? Because they make up figures. And you'll be amazed by that. The Japanese culture is something that makes one think how they run companies. The employees actually have a long-term career with Toshiba, with Olympus, but they don't think that transparency and corporate governance is a big thing within their own organizations. As to why, I have no clue. I think it's the culture. Think about it. How can you trick your shareholders into all these false profits for 10 years or even 13 years? And it's in the news. So what the Japanese government, what they have done, is actually they have pension funds. In 2014, I guess, they asked all these funds to sign a stewardship code, which means for the investment decisions, they have to follow some guidelines and principles with some transparency in making those decisions for the pension funds and hence for their citizens. And they do have corporate governance rules about disclosure. As to whether the company is following those rules, I have no clue. My point is, sustainability is not just sometimes about being good to your employees. It's about your corporate culture as well. It's about how you run your business to ensure that you could explain to your external stakeholders, your investors, about how you run your management. That's interesting enough, is something that could be missing in Japan. On the other hand, we have got the ex-Google boss joining Yahoo and sacking 1,700 people without mercy. That was on the news as well. There are tough decisions that organizations have to make because that is a cost, right? But how you do it right and how you manage your business is something that one should think of. Perhaps with no offense whatsoever, Yahoo may not be running a very sustainable business. Those things happening in the digital world always raise question marks in people's mind. Even I, being a personal, investor, I always wonder whether I should invest in a company called Tencent in Hong Kong. It's doing all these games in China, making huge profits. The stock price has been, going up and shot up without, it's how many times PE against all the traditional PEs that you can think of, the price-earning ratio. And then people think of this hope that it will be sustainable. I trust this is something that I could not speak on behalf of any companies here, and I'm not trying to. I'm just saying that when you are doing a different business, you have to think of sustainability different. And perhaps for the digital market, they have to think of new ways to reinvent themselves, to think of new games for the youngsters, to engage them. Even when I talk to you about Facebook, I trust that the population is going down as well. Even my daughter, she doesn't use Facebook any longer. Apparently, I'm her Facebook friend, but I think more like it is actually she's using Snapchat and Instagram. And then you can see in Germany as well, Volkswagen pleads guilty to all criminal charges in emission cheating scandal. So you're running your business. They talk about, the energy that you're using, you're consuming for your business. And isn't that silly enough that a company will make fraudulent statements on the emission level of your production? Again, that's something that those decisions were made in a very reckless manner. Reckless in the sense that, there's no corporate governance into monitoring all these business decisions, I have to say. Back into the Asia region, you can see the supply chain that I always talk about child abuse, about wages, minimum wages, that perhaps places like Bangladesh have to think twice. Think of this phenomenon. In the past, people employ cheap laborers in China. Now, GDP in China shot up. They moved somewhere else to the Asia region. I was once in the retail business, actually. I was told by my colleagues that you have to bring your own water. And then, there's no transportation of any kind in Bangladesh. So if you have to do a factory visit, then you have to go through some bumpy roads into reaching your destination. I trust, these things are changing. Perhaps one day Bangladesh will flourish because of better government system, anti-corruption measures, we don't know. But this is a global trend. Things are changing so rapidly that in our role being executives, we have to ask ourselves as to the business that we are running in a particular region, as to what those developments are, as to what those laws are we in compliance? Could we surpass all these standards? What are the things that we are doing to the environment? Like us, we are doing construction work. So are we, for lead qualification, you have to, have materials from your region to build your own complex? That's something we have to think about. And feasibility study, it report as to how you affect the, the environment as well. Trends as such. not just the top management knowing it, but for those people who work for you, from manager, great people, down to the people on the front line, and your subcontractors as well, being your supply chain.